You know, we're sponsored by Dr. Pepper.
Really?
Yeah. We're the #1 podcast on the internet for Dr. Pepper.
You know, you guys are making big moves, and I'm proud of you.
For Dr. Pepper.
Wait, so you're promoting Dr. Pepper in hopes of getting a...
Yeah, we're trying to get the bag.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Why not? Why wouldn't you be?
Hello and welcome to the MoxStars podcast. I am one of your hosts, Evan Kunai. Welcome back to the show. And we've got Christopher Ritter.
What's up, Pepperheads?
And a very special guest today. We have newcomer AJ Campbell.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Welcome to the #1 podcast on the internet for Magic the Gathering and Dr. Pepper. Today, we're doing a very special episode, not only because we have AJ here, but because a question posed by a regular deli goer, Rick, who is a listener of the show now, asked me, how do I get into Magic? Like, how do I, now that I've been introduced, how do I go about becoming a better player, introducing myself, seeing more cards, all that stuff? So that is today's main topic.
We're doing the MoxStars Dr. Pepper Presents, the Guide to Magic the Gathering.
Yes! Woo! And
A
AJ,
Richard Garfield game.
AJ, being the beginner here, never having played Magic, we are going to try to present an argument that will get AJ into Magic, and he will ask questions as they come up. Just spit them out. As soon as it pops into your head, just spit it out. I don't care how it sounds, it comes to you.
Yeah, never even picked up a deck, so I'm sure I'll have plenty.
Okay, sweet. We have a little pregame action, an exciting announcement. We just finished playing some games with Gavin Verhey. He was
He's a notable member of the Magic community, you would say.
Well, he came by, and turns out he likes sandwiches a lot, so he came to...
And we like Magic.
And we like Magic.
It works.
And we played a bunch of games with him last night, and it was actually so much fun.
Yeah, no, it was really cool to see what are the cards that the designer of Magic thinks are fun and goofy and underappreciated and worth playing.
Yeah, he's a super chill dude, and we look forward to playing more games with Gavin in the future.
What do you think of the sandwiches?
Oh, great question, AJ. He housed maybe 16 or 17 sandwiches.
Full sandwiches.
They were,
Damn.
yeah, they were fantastic.
And we're talking like 4-foot party subs.
I knew he had it in him.
Yeah, now he housed a bunch. He had some brownies and cookies and all that good stuff. We had quite the spread out for giving the Salumi experience. Reiterate, great time.
Yeah, it's a great time.
On to the main topic, since this is a pretty short episode. Before we get to that, if you'd like to support the show, you can do so by joining our Discord server. It's poppin'. You know that. We talk about Dr. Pepper. We talk about deck.
We talk exclusively about Dr. Pepper.
And
if you talk about Magic on the sideline, that's, good for you.
Yeah. The channel discussion, or Brew Buddies, that's there for deck discussion or whatever you're feeling, whatever you're brewing, bring it up to the community. And we have...
Dr. Pepper was brewing something with all those herbs and spices and whatever in his soda.
God, 23 flavors. I cannot...
Yeah. That is a robust flavor profile. That is a resilient soda.
They get to the mid-game.
They do, for sure.
Hardy soda.
You can also support us by subscribing to us on YouTube, hitting that thumbs up, and ringing that bell for more notifications. And you'll get a notification for when we drop our gameplay video with Gavin Verhey. Stay tuned for that. You can also follow us on all major podcasting platforms. Be sure to leave a 5-star review, because we kick serious butt. We're the #1 podcast on the internet. So
you can edit this out if we can't say it, but we're going to be at MagicCon, right?
Yeah, we are going to be at MagicCon. It's super exciting. We're going to have a table for meet and greet, and we're also going to have a table locked down for games on Friday. So it'd be pretty cool to see some people there. Come jam some games with the MoxStars. On to the main topic, the beginner's guide to Magic the Gathering. Now, for anyone listening to this, you're probably inundated. You probably know a lot about the game, or at least played a few games. That's why we brought AJ on the show. He doesn't know a lot.
It's true.
But the big question is when you are introduced, and you can be introduced in a plethora of ways.
Hot Pockets can do it, apparently.
Cheez-Its can do it.
AJ, if you go to the grocery store, there are Magic the Gathering branded Hot Pockets. Which do they come with exclusive like arena codes and stuff? Okay,
yep.
yeah.
So if you're in the freezer section, it's Hot Pockets. You can go to the snack section. They have Cheez-Its that look like Magic box. The box looks like a pack of Magic cards.
Beautiful.
It's pretty cool. It depending on what format you get introduced to can lead to a lot of questions in how the game is played, because the game can be played pretty much an infinite number of ways. There are so many different unique game pieces, so it can be confusing as to where to start or how to even acquire cards in an effective way that is going to help you grow and progress as a player. So let's get right into it. I think the most important thing to sort of get off the ground with this conversation is that once you've been introduced to the game, it can all be very confusing and be a lot to swallow. They can be a pretty big, hefty bite of information. So the best way that I've found to sort of get involved with Magic is to, one, the friend who got you involved or whoever got you involved, whatever piqued your interest, refer to that resource. That's going to determine
what format you're going to be playing, how you're going to be playing it, that sort of thing. What power level you're going to be playing at.
Yeah, and honestly, the lowest power level that you can play at and get exposure to the most possible cards is by playing Draft. And that's where I would start. If you've been introduced to the game, either through Commander or 1v1 play with Pioneer decks or something like that, take a step back, go do a draft, get exposed to the commons, uncommons, how they all interact with each other, because they're actually designed to interact with each other.
And for AJ, Draft is a format of Magic the Gathering where everyone involved gets a bunch of packs, and depending on the type of the draft, either keeps those packs and builds decks out of them, or opens packs and picks a card, passes along, and everyone takes turns doing that until all the cards are gone. But it's highly randomized, and you don't start with any cards. And so it levels the playing field in that way, because everyone has access to the same pool of resources to start.
Okay, so I guess a question that comes out of that is what determines it? You said there's different types of drafts, and sometimes one person keeps all the packs that they have. Sorry, and one person keeps all the packs that they have. Yeah,
so there's different formats that you can do. The basic format, I guess. What should we talk about, Evan? Do you think?
Formatception. We have. I think, honestly, pre-releases.
Pre-release is probably the best way to do it.
Yeah, so that's called sealed. There's a format within the format. So limited is technically...
Like we said, infinite ways to play.
Yeah. Limited is the format that we are talking about currently, and that's where Draft resides. So Draft and Sealed are technically different things. Sealed is generally like a pre-release where you get 6 packs of Magic cards, and everyone has the satisfaction of opening those cards, get that nice, crisp, factory sealed smell, and then you get to keep those cards and build a deck out of them. That is one of my favorite ways to play the game, and I've seen more beginners, people introducing their friends to Magic via pre-release than pretty much any other way.
I think that's a great way to do it, because there's even more leveling going on, because there is strategy to when you're passing packs around, deciding, hey, what's a good first pick, and then seeing later down the line when you see that pack again, oh, what did everyone else pick? There is, strategy and experience can give you more of an advantage there, and it's a little maybe not so great for new players to jump right into that. I would say even as an experienced player, someone who's been playing for 30 years, when I draft on Arena and I don't have a ton of experience with draft, I get my ass kicked, no matter what. No matter how good I think my deck is.
Yeah. There are a few
by pros.
Yeah, people who've been practicing with the same set over and over again to min-max their builds.
Okay.
So there is that level of competition even at the draft level, but pre-release puts you all on the same level and says you're all getting 6 packs and those are the cards you get to keep.
Can you trade the packs between each other?
Nope.
Or is it okay?
Nope. You get your cards.
Yep, you get your cards, and that's what you get. And so, what it does, and why it's such a great way to introduce people to the game, is it helps you build and grow as a deck builder. So, if you are not like you are accustomed to the game, you know there's 5 colors in the game. You know that you need mana to acquire to be able to cast spells. You need certain colors of mana, and so expanding, like broadening your color range to like 3 or 4 colors, even 5 colors, can be dangerous in a format where a lot of beginners exist because they don't quite know how to balance their mana pool or like their resources. So generally, when you start off, you want to build like 1 color, 2 color, just to get a good idea of how the process goes from phase to phase to phase. And then when you get comfortable with that, then you can grow and you can just keep going like, you know what, I am going to play 3 color. You know what, I am going to play 4 color.
How many colors are there?
There's 5.
There's 5?
Plus colorless.
Yeah.
Plus no color. Oh.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Plus the lack of color, which is distinctively not a color for the purposes of the rules of the game.
Yeah.
Or I think scientifically, I forget how that works.
Yeah, it's
Color, the light spectrum.
it's a it's some weird thing where the thing about Magic is that you read the card and you do what it says. The wording and the grammar is incredibly important. And so when something says you can add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool, notably that does not include colorless mana. So you can't add a colorless mana to your pool, which is sometimes a unique rules interaction.
Okay.
So there's also tens of thousands of pages of rules.
Literally tens of thousands of pages of rules.
You know, coming into it, as much as I knew, that the extent of my knowledge of Magic was that there were colors. No idea how many or you know what they. I'd assume it's some sort of type.
They have personalities. The different colors are defined largely by what can and cannot happen in that slice of the color pie. Okay. And when something breaks the restrictions of its color, that's kind of a big deal. Or there needs to be a mechanical or lore or some other reason justifying it in general.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you want to look out for those ones that act differently outside of their color.
For sure. Like there's a card in, so the 5 colors are black, blue, green, red, white, and then colorless. And so blue is known for interacting on the stack. I think is one of the big things it's known for. And you don't need to get in the weeds on what that means right now. It just means that you can like counter spells and you can, interact with things before they actually resolve or happen, like
when we were playing D&D a couple weeks ago and someone cast counter spell on me. The same company that makes D&D makes Magic the Gathering. And so a lot of the inspiration can actually come from those fantasy role-playing games.
So if I'm hearing it right, blue cards, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Used primarily for things that you would want to think ahead with.
Yeah, blue is known as like a controlling type archetype.
Okay.
Wizards.
And so breaking the color pie, there's a card in black, for example, called Withering Boon, which is 1 white and 1 black and 1 colorless mana to cast, and you can counter target creature spell and pay 3 life. And so, because it breaks the color pie, what has to happen is they have to nerf it. They have to, make it a little bit worse than it would be if it were in its natural color.
Okay.
Which is why you lose life in the process.
I see. So there's a toll to be paid.
Yep. Yeah, and that's characteristic of black. And so since every color has a personality, when you're becoming a deck builder, you're going to find that when you mix colors together, you're going to get where green is very stompy, very nature focused, right? Big creatures stomping your face in. You combine that with white and all of a sudden you have controlled nature, in its sort of aspect. So where, blue red becomes this aggressive control, and stuff like that. So you can combine the colors in ways to create new play styles, to embody your personality more. So it's incredibly, that's the thing about the game that I think all of us who are experienced players love, is the expression that you get through combining these colors and finding strategies that embody who you are as a strategist, as a player, as a person.
Yeah, it immediately makes me just think of multi-classing in D&D.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yep. So
Like you can be a monk with 3 levels in rogue and 1 level in wizard if that is your personality. Like you can do that alchemy to get there.
Yeah.
I love to hide, but I also like to use my fists.
Exactly. That does describe you, right?
I mean, not totally inaccurately.
Yeah. So getting started in draft, great way to start exploring your options there. About like hiding and using your fists. There are also a lot of different ways that you can get involved with the game, and this is going to come down to your community, right? Because your community can be one of the greatest support structures that you have in learning the game, teaching you the game, and showing you resources to develop your knowledge of the game more. So
Like and with your community too, like probably number 1 is going to be pre-release as a great way for beginners to get into the game, and then with a little more complexity and knowledge of the game, I think another great way is like commander precons. Especially if you're going to pick precons all on the same theme or were released in the same set, and then they're all relatively the same power level. They're complete. It's a different format. It's a 100 card format versus a 40 plus card format for pre-release. And it's a little more complex, right? Because you can only have like 1 of each card. The cards run from the entire history of Magic. So there's different mechanics at work. There's more obscure things going on. Just overall more complexity going on. But still friendly to beginners at certain levels, and especially with the precons. Like that's the whole point.
Okay.
right, and this is a format that I would say you level up. You level up to. You want to level up to this, just because there are ways to search your library for certain things, and the decks are larger than normal. Where like in draft you would create a 40 card deck, this is now 100 cards, and so your knowledge of how the game works and stuff like that would be it would have to be a little bit greater in order to play the deck effectively. Now you can learn the game by playing Commander, but it is a lot of exposure to a lot of new things.
It makes sense why that those little details make sense why that would be a little more overwhelming than the 40 card.
But yeah.
And you said it goes with Commander, it goes through the history of Magic. What is there a
I just mean the card pool is so much larger. So pre-release, like literally pre-release it's going to be cards only from the most recent set.
So 274, 276, like usually right around that number of cards, and that includes basic lands. So not even less.
What's the number of unique cards in Magic? 30,000, something like that?
Plus, yeah.
Yeah, versus a card pool of 30,000 plus cards that might show up in one of those 100 card decks.
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
And so there are ways, and I think that this is where you start to have the conversation of like building, like after you've grown a little bit as a player, you start getting into deck building and you start getting into Commander. Even if you buy a precon and you take it out for a spin or two, eventually you're going to see some cards that you're going to want to swap out and put new stuff in. This is now down to the responsibility of the community to keep you within in your boundaries a little bit, because I remember a funny story when I was introducing Jordan to Magic, and I had just bought an Umezawa Jite, and it was from the vault, and it was $11. And I told him, and he was trying to play ninjas, and he really wanted to upgrade his Yuriko build. And I told him, I said, this is a great card. Sure, it's really good in Atraxa. That's the deck I have right now. And what I don't want you to do is I want you to really consider Ritter's Warning and realize that you're about to spend $11 on a piece of paper. I am not going to encourage you to do that. It's one of those things that is a slippery slope. When you spend $11 on something, then $13 becomes justified. And so also,
what's a recent card that you've picked up that, if we want to talk about the slippery slope?
Yeah, cash spent on something?
on a single card.
On a single card.
Just so you know what you're potentially getting into.
Yeah.
And this isn't even the most expensive card that you're going to want access to.
Right. And so there was a point in time where I was building for tournament, and the rest of the deck itself was worth about $8,000. And so I looked at that, the total cost, and I looked at the card that I wanted, and I like shiny cards. And so in the snap of a finger, I justified paying $70 for a Judge Foil land tax.
And does it being shiny add anything to its usability, its effectiveness?
Nope.
Nope.
Although maybe I will say there is a thing. I'm a strong believer that pilot is more important than deck. And so
Pilot.
But the person playing the deck is more important
I
than the
see.
contents
Okay.
of the deck.
Okay.
And so I have a personal theory that people play better when they play with cards that they like. And so there's limits to that. You have to play mostly good cards. But if you know that you can top deck your favorite card and it can kind of be okay, you're going to be a better player and you're going to make better decisions.
That makes sense.
Yeah, you become more comfortable with strategies the more you play them. And just so you know, the cards are more effective when they're foil. Thank you.
Oh.
And the reason being, I play 3 colors pretty much exclusively, and it's red, green, and white, Naya. And it's just because that is the set of colors that embodies who I am. And so now that I've been playing it long enough, I have an insight into that strategy, or I know my lines of strategy better than my opponents who are trying to counter my lines of strategy, so I can actually more effectively, I guess, work around those things. So
Okay.
as you learn and develop, you'll consistently play. You should play all 5 colors to figure out who you are, right, as a player. But
Experiment.
once you fall into your realm of your comfort zone, it's good to break out of it every now and again.
Yeah, I mean, because the 5 individual colors have their own identities, but then like we're saying with mixing the different colors, they have different aspects of those identities. And maybe you see that you like green, but you can really dial that in to the point where it's actually I like green with a good bit of red and a splash of black because I like this and this and the way they come together. It can get really complex.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing seems complex for sure. But having little, flavor accents with the thing you main, it seems like it's, takes it a long way as far as how players would go.
And I would say
sound.
EDH more than other formats too, encourages you expressing your identity through what you're doing. That is kind of the whole point of the format almost, and what makes that so friendly to people, I think.
100%. And I think that the fact that EDH is also 4-player. A lot of these other formats are only 2-player, where you play, 1v1.
And it is strictly competitive.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that
even if you're just having fun, it's a zero-sum game. Somebody has to win, somebody has to lose.
Trying to win. I
Yep.
getcha.
And there's rewards for winning. You get a pack, so there's the opportunity to see more cards, and there's opportunities to open that pack and receive, serialized collector's edition cards, which are worth hundreds of dollars. So that's a big motivating factor for a lot of the people who play competitively. Is one more pack could be you getting a crazy pull or getting the chase card from the set. So Commander being the 4-player format, and it's very political. It's also very community driven. So you can take your time. You can actually sit there and ask the table for criticism or for advice, or hey, I'm gonna do this. You think it's a good idea? And they can sort of help guide you as a player.
I would say it's more like D&D, where D&D is not a game so much as collaborative storytelling, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone's getting together to go on this journey together. And that's, EDH is similar in that way, except for there is ultimately a winner of the individual game. 1 out of 4 people only one person can win. But as you get there, it's really about, like Evan says, everyone at the table talking to each other about, hey, how's this game proceeding? What should each of us be doing? How should we each be playing our role and contributing here? Something, if you play EDH, you're going to encounter is, do you feed the fish or do you pay the tax?
Right.
There's certain cards that will enable their controller to draw extra cards, get extra resources, basically. Card draw is one of the best effects in Magic. And so in an EDH game, often players will encourage people to pay the tax so that the person controlling that permanent doesn't get those extra cards, right? Don't let someone run away with the game all three of us, even though we're each trying to win, we all have to contribute to letting this person not win, this fourth person. So we're in this together while at the same time competing.
Okay, that kind of makes sense. So EDH is the less, streamlined. I'm trying to win. I'm trying to.
Yeah, there's lots of routes to winning, and within your pod, the group of people that you play EDH with too, there's going to be preferences in play style and power level and things like that. Some people like really quick games. Some people like long games that take 2 hours and lots of silly things happen in the process.
Okay.
There's many stops in between those two extremes.
Yeah, I like those types.
Yeah, I think that even what a beautiful way to describe it. The D&D reference is just was gorgeous, Ritter. That
thank you.
Really put it in place, and you can still feel like you've won even if you don't actually walk away with a win, because you told your story, you interacted it a certain way. You got to see what your deck did, and that sometimes that's just fulfilling enough to continue going down this path as a Magic player.
There are many times where it's just you look at 3 different cards that you've never seen together before, and you're like, it would be pretty cool. I think this is how the rules work, that if I did this, then this, and if I had this in my hand and I play it, something really wild will happen. But it's never going to happen in a game. And then you play enough games that RNG, it happens, and then you lose that game. You still got to see the thing happen, which is awesome.
You have the proof now.
Yes, exactly.
So it's what's the other one out? The other one, not EDH.
Limited, draft.
So limited. From what I'm hearing, correct me if I'm wrong. It's more get the gold, and EDH is more get the knowledge, grow, as opposed to just grow in wisdom as opposed to grow in prize.
Yeah, and honestly, eventually you will get there to the point you grow. You get there, you gain the knowledge, and eventually you get to the point where we've talked about this on previous episodes, where the card pool starts to shrink because you start seeing the good cards, the ones that you like to play the most, and all of a sudden your spectrum of strategy until new cards are released sort of narrows, because you figure out and then that's when you start going for the gold. That's when you start playing for satisfaction of potentially winning a game.
Okay,
that's not everyone's path though.
Yeah, I don't know what point I was about to make. Continue. Yep.
I can also describe...
Wait. No, keep going.
Well, you probably stopped me from describing EDH in a much worse way. I can describe it in reference to Star Wars Episode 1 if you'd like.
I know it. Phantom Menace.
Oh, yeah.
You're familiar with the film.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, of course.
Do you remember when Anakin Skywalker is pod racing?
Who could forget?
One of the greatest sequences in cinema. And...
Yeah.
Big Sebulba fan.
You're a big Sebulba fan? You're going to love this reference.
Okay, good.
So you know when when Annie catches up to Sebulba and he's about to pass him, and Sebulba's like, this ain't happening. Or no, earlier in the race, he's Sebulba's sort of sour, and so he busts off that little thing, and then Anakin takes off, and eventually that little thing flies off, and you can see on his little terminal screen 4 bars. They're all green and at the mid-level to start the race, and that's how he knows his engines are functioning properly.
Yeah, the turbine layout.
Yes, yeah, exactly, right? And so you see, after that thing breaks off, everything's out of parity. The whole engine system is funky. It means this engine's way stronger than this engine. And so throughout the game, Anakin's sitting there flipping the switches, trying to figure out, he's trying to repair and fix things. And these are your players in the game who are interacting with the problem. And then eventually they all level it out, and Anakin is able to cross the finish line as a winner because everyone succeeded. So, and all the engines were balanced. Did that paint a better picture?
Yeah, I mean, it just sort of sounds
that very clear metaphor about pod racing in episode 1.
So it's just sort of It's just sort of like a step away from chaos the whole time until it all comes to an end.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
That's what you took away from that?
Well, I mean,
That was
if he didn't-
perfect.
If he didn't,
It was a very clear metaphor.
if he didn't fix his turbine he would have blown up like half the rest of the racers.
Exactly my
Or
point.
maybe all the rest of the racers. I don't remember. I
Jeez.
can't remember.
I think most of the racers blew up.
I think it was just Sebulba and Annie by the end of it.
There's a pretty big body count in pod racing.
A lot of casualties for
Yeah.
two racers.
Well, life is cheap on Tatooine, as we know.
we do know.
Wow.
Man.
Okay. So
It's getting heavy here.
yeah, as there are a lot of other formats in the game, and you can also be introduced to the game and grow within these other formats. EDH just happens to be the largest, most popular format at the moment. There are a few ways to learn how to play the game that if you're just interested, like we talked about with the Hot Pockets and the Cheez-Its, you can also download Arena on your phone or computer.
And that's great if you don't have a community of people.
Exactly.
Or even if you do, but they're not. It can be hard, much like D&D, getting everyone in one place.
Yeah.
And this is honestly probably the best way for someone to be guided by a professional hand in playing the game, because once you download it, it's actually going to run you through a tutorial regardless of whether or not you know how to play the game. So that's a good and a bad thing, just depending. But it's going to show you how to tap for mana, how to use your resources, and then it's also going to teach you how to manipulate the stack or how the stack works, and teach you every single phase of the game as well. So there's all of these things that come together. Turn order, like how you progress through turns, untap, upkeep, untap, upkeep, draw, main phase, combat, main phase, end step.
Jargon.
Yeah, yes.
Again, a complex game. Which is why you need these different inroads, limited and EDH and Arena, to kind of dip your toes in, because it can be super overwhelming if you're new to it.
Mm-hmm. And so this is where the conversation of constructed comes up, and that's a whole new term. Yeah.
I mean, just everything you've thrown at me is, it's not overwhelming, but definitely could dig into more understanding.
Right. Yeah, and so
I think I'd have to play though.
Right, and we'll get you a deck.
All right.
We'll make you dive right into EDH. So
I'll come with you whatever game store you go to.
Nice.
Let me know when you're going, and I'll come with you.
We're going to Phoenix. But constructed format is actually 60 cards, where limited draft was 40. This is 60. EDH is 100. And this is a format where you can have 4 copies of any card in the deck. And this is probably the most common way that people were introduced to the game before Commander became the most popular format, because it was a way to refine strategies so that you could actually give someone a deck and say, this is what the deck wants to do. This is how it wants to take steps forward. And that was a great way to teach players how to play the game. It's honestly how I learned how to play the game. And look at me now. Right? Right?
Yeah.
And
I have no comparison, Evan. You and Jordan Ritter are the only ones that I know that play.
Yeah, and honestly, I commend Jordan. He's not here today, but I would give him a crisp high five for persevering after I just threw him into the pool of EDH and said, "Have fun."
Well, I mean, kind of that is though the format that was probably like most suited towards Jordan.
Totally.
Yeah.
His vast, his grasp of games, in general, he's always min-maxing. So the ability to give him an endless pool of resources to look at and research to do, he's that kind of guy who loves to do, obsessive research when he finds strategies that he enjoys, like his Anhello deck. He's still researching that deck, and he's going to figure it out eventually, and we're going to have problems with it for a long time. So
yeah, I mean, so that's a factor that can play into it. Like, hey, how should you dip your toes into Magic? When you play video games, you like to pick up a game for a couple hours, then not play it for a couple weeks. Maybe then pre-release is for you.
Yeah.
But if you're obsessive, if you're just I gotta, get the platinum trophy on, Zelda. If you're that kind of person, maybe EDH is more your style.
I'm definitely specifically obsessive when it comes to games and stuff. Wouldn't call myself a gamer to any degree, but there's things that catch my eye that I lean all the way into.
Yeah, if you
little bits.
if you see a card on the table and you're like, "What's that card?" And you're just like curious, and then all of a sudden it leads down this rabbit hole where you're just like, "I now know everything and all the interactions with that card." If you're that kind of player, EDH is the game for you.
Yeah. No, I very much like to find my comfort zone and master it.
Totally.
Or try
Or
to.
if you're strictly competitive, probably constructed best of 3, and there's different formats within that and things like that, where the whole thing is competition, and on Arena they call it climbing the ladder, like the monthly rankings reset, and people are chasing different tiers of that, trying to reach Mythic, which is the highest tier. And then once you reach Mythic, you can make yourself miserable trying to grind to be one of the top 1,000 players within Mythic and know what number player you were in the world for that month of the
Hey, Ritter, that sounds a lot like what you did.
That is exactly what I did. I have stayed away from Arena in the past few years. I tend to get into that competitive mode to the point where I was not enjoying the game so much as grinding to get the result.
Yeah, and Jordan could testify to that too, because he tried climbing the ladder in Standard and was just met with just like brutal beatdowns. Like he'd climb, he'd get to where he wanted to be, and then one more game. It's always that thought, right? You win one, and you're like, you know what, just one more game. You lose that one, you drop 3 steps.
Yeah, if you have like a gambling problem or an addictive personality, I would not recommend Arena, because it is like, you can spend real money in it as well.
Yep.
I got to say that, even though you're not even getting the cardboard in return. And then there's always more games. You're in the casino. There's always a game for you.
Yeah, that's such a good simile.
Man,
Yeah.
I'll stay away from that one.
Yeah, and overall, I would say that the positive impact that Magic has is greater than those that detract. It's just having control over that. And more than anything, like, while this is an episode for beginners, this is if you're an experienced player and you're bringing new people into the game, it is also your responsibility to give them that knowledge, to say like, hey, there is an inherent risk that if you're this type of person, this can be like gambling, this can be addictive, and that's why they call it cardboard crack.
Yes, for sure.
So
Really, do they?
yeah, it's got that name, it's got that nickname. So
I like it.
yeah, I mean,
There is definitely a financial incentive underlying the game, which can be dangerous. So that's one of the things too. Like, a lot of the format you should be playing or how you're dipping your toes in should be determined on like, what is your realistic, like, responsible budget for this game.
Yeah, like I'm a small stakes stocks kind of guy, and so like when I'm looking at the financial aspect of the game and like I am dipping into that, it can be dangerous. Just due to like the risk that is inherently taken by doing that. So like I might be buying cards for a quarter, right? But if they end up being 5 cents, I might, that's still an 80% loss. It might not feel like it is low stakes, right? But there are other times when it pays off, and I will tell those stories for the rest of my life. How I bought an $8 finale. I bought 16 $8 finale of Devastations, and now they're $50. Like, I will tell that story forever.
Well, I mean, the point I'm trying to make is like, if you get into EDH, maybe you're going to pick up a 50-ish or more dollar precon, and then invest a couple $100 into upgrading it. And then hopefully you like that deck still, and you keep spending those hundreds of dollars, though, upgrading it. Or maybe you like that deck, but you want to try another deck, and then you're spending that money over there and there. Versus, like, pre-release, you're going to drop $20 every couple months, and,
That's it.
That would be the safe bet for me, because what you were saying just before, that's the danger zone.
Yes, or Arena, in theory, if you don't hook up your credit card information, can be free to play. It limits your ability to play the game, but it can be free to play.
Yes.
Sorry, real quick, guys. I got to go to the bathroom.
No worries. I mean, I think we're close to wrapping up. So
it's like a great. You run to the little boys' room.
We'll finish up
Thanks
here.
for having me.
Thanks for being here, AJ.
Hi, AJ. Have fun in the bathroom.
I'll be here for it.
Bye.
AJ, can you come back and say that all into the mic?
Yeah, but AJ, can you come back? We're just playing. You can go to the bathroom. I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, I think we covered it really well. It was great having AJ on here to ask those questions to stimulate like a little bit more thought. I
mean, if any of the listeners to this podcast, such as Ricky, you said Rick,
you know Rick,
of course, Rick,
Grindhouse Rick.
Oh, okay, yeah, I do know Grindhouse Rick actually. If any of the listeners of this podcast have any questions for beginners, or even if you're an experienced player and you have questions about like, hey, I'm trying to get this friend that doesn't play into the game, this discussion, raise some of the problems that I'm having getting my friend in and some of the barriers to entry that I'm seeing, definitely pipe up in the comments or get a discussion going in the Discord. We have a podcast about Magic the Gathering and Dr. Pepper because we love those two things.
It's number one on the internet.
Number one on the internet for both things. And, part of us loving the game is we want to get our friends in the game because, a big part of EDH and for us and the game in general, whatever format we're playing, is just the hang sesh, right?
Yeah.
Hanging out with your buds, having a good time. I liken it sometimes to like, growing up, my dad used to have a monthly poker game with work buddies and things like that. Same deal, just a different version of the same thing. It's a game that you play, but it's for the hang sesh.
Totally, 100%. And we're honestly like, I guess if you want to join that community, if you feel like you want to be a part of the MoxStars community, you can actually jump on our Discord and. We haven't been super active in the real life meetups, but we want to be more active. We want to have those conversations. And if you're just trying to learn how to play the game, reach out to us in the comments or whatever. Or if your friend showed you this episode, leave a comment down below.
Yeah, we got 3 people on the podcast. We need a 4th person to play EDH, right?
Yeah, that's right. And if you're that 4th person, you can also come find us in Las Vegas at MagicCon, and we will have a 4th seat available.
We'll have more details about that as we get closer to it.
Yes. And that being said, if you'd like to support the show, you can find us on YouTube. Like, subscribe, hit that bell. Stay tuned for our Gavin Verhey gameplay episode. And you can support us by finding us on Spotify, Audible, all the major podcasting platforms.
Leave a review.
Yes, please leave a review. And join our Discord. Join that growing community where we're popping off. Where we have some exciting we have a lot of exciting things coming up. We're super excited to show you. We have to be a little tight-lipped about it right now. But the MoxStars podcast is on the rise. If you just like Star Wars Episode 1 references, you can join the podcast.
Yeah, if you're a Sebulba fan, definitely Sebulba comes up for at least 5 minutes every episode, I would say, on average.
All right.
Man, I'm late to the party.
All right, we got to get out of here. AJ, you're too late. All right, bye.
Bye.